Okay, ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome to the very first edition of the Rowdy Rooster Rundown here on this Sunday, May the 14th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Spurs Up Show as always, and I appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I hope this show does find you well, no matter where you are, what you're doing, all those listening via podcast Monday morning or any time throughout Monday. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in. You can find the Spurs Up Show, of course, on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. By the way, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. As you know, and as you see right now, if you're watching the show live, it is 7:01 p.m. Eastern time, but that is not for sure the time we'll go live each and every single Sunday. So if you want to make sure you're able to tune in, subscribe to the YouTube page, hit that bell icon to get the notifications when we do go live and also just when we drop new video content. You know, this is really, really cool because obviously we're almost 800 episodes in on the actual podcast itself. So when we're able to do different things like this, right, when we're able to change things up a bit in content, in business, the way we operate, what have you, and we're able to evolve, and I sort of push myself outside of my comfort zone, it's a really, really cool thing, right? So it's been a while, obviously, since under the Spurs Up Show platform, I've been able to sit back and say, hey, this is episode 1 of anything. So again, welcome to the Rowdy Rooster Rundown. In case you're unaware of what this is, number one, we have decided on the name Rowdy Rooster Rundown, but what it's going to be as we evolve in content, obviously, right, guys? I told you guys last week, we're evolving in content. We're evolving with the way that we distribute the podcast, with the way that we produce content and how it is released. Number one, it's a great thing and a value add for all of those who love the Spurs Up Show and love the content, right? Because it's going to be even more content for you all, especially on the podcast side of things. But what this is going to be, obviously, what I'm really doing is just changing up the structure of the way the podcast is released, recorded, etc. So this would normally be yours truly recording the Monday podcast, which effectively is still what we are doing because this is going to drop Monday morning at 5 a.m. as it normally does, right? I want to make sure we show love to our morning commuters on Mondays, our folks who after a long weekend, whatever happened in Gamecocks athletics, you guys look forward to this show. But I figured, why aren't we going live at the same time? Why aren't we going live, making this even more content? So that's exactly what we are doing. You can basically think of it as a live podcast. So not so much as the Daily Crow, we're taking questions and comments the entire time. This is going to be basically the podcast. And at the very end, if you guys want to leave your questions, your comments, your thoughts in the chat box on YouTube or via our hotline, you can text us at 843-790-3377, and I will get into a few of those questions. But again, guys, what is the Rowdy Rooster Rundown? Basically, it's just going to be our live show / podcast. Just label it as content each and every single Sunday night, Sunday afternoon. That's why I said right now we do not have a set time, right? Obviously, the Yardcocks just finishing up their series against the Arkansas Razorbacks. That game ended around, what was it, like 6 o'clock or so, 5:30, I think it was. So, you know, it's really going to depend. We're going to do this during football season as well. So we'll be wide open on Sunday. So I'm not exactly sure if we're going to have a set time we go live or it's just going to sort of be wide open, right? This is just episode number 1, so we're sort of figuring things out as we go. But again, you can expect to see us be live each and every single, we'll say, Sunday night as the baseball season continues. Now, over the summer, we will not do this because there's just not quite as much to talk about. It's a little bit of overkill to go live on a Sunday night and talk about whatever happened, right, on an off-season weekend. But as you can expect, or you can expect this show to be live on Sunday nights, and we are in season of Gamecocks athletics. So again, guys, really, really excited for it. I think it'll be a cool way for us to, again, continue to interact and just another content value add for you all. And again, it's an initiative, something I'm really, really excited about. Now, guys, we move into our housekeeping items. Again, speaking of content, the changes, again, I talked about this a lot on the Daily Crow last week. The Daily Crow's new format begins this week. Of course, we're sticking with Monday through Friday, But instead of noon to 2, TDC will air noon to 3 Monday through Friday. I'm very, very excited for this, guys, to have even more hard-hitting action and more content, and again, driving more value for you all. I broke down the format last week. Hour number 1 is going to be like this. Basically, yours truly, just spoken word, talking about a set number of topics that I want to dive into that day, get into sort of your podcast form of the show, if you will, in hour number 1. Hour number 2, we'll have our special guest, and we got a full guest lineup, which I'm going to go through in just a second. And then hour number 3, to keep the integrity of the Daily Crow and what TDC actually is, or what it's always been, that third hour, it's going to be wide open, sort of our power hour. I think that's what I'm going to nickname it, the TDC Power Hour, where we'll take your questions, your comments, your calls. And guys, do not worry if you cannot call in that 2 to 3 hour. Just leave a voicemail on the hotline, 843-790-3377, and we will play the voicemails back that day so we make sure everyone's able to be part of the show. So, again, I'm really excited for it, looking forward to it. I think, guys, it's exponentially going to improve the overall quality of the show. And also, guys, the way that we produce content. Like I mentioned, go subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. You guys are going to be flooded with content. As I spoke again last week, right now, or what it's always been, is here's the podcast and here's the Daily Crow with the date, right? That's been the podcast content. Now you're going to be getting 5 to 6 mini episodes per day. So all of the subject matter, all the topics I discussed that day, they will be broken out, and we'll just say 20 or 25 minute or just 15 to 20 minute episodes, if you will. Whatever the guest interview we had on, that'll be broken out in a chunk in their conversation. Our power hour will be broken out in its own segment as well. So you guys are able to go through and listen to your favorite parts of the show, but do not worry. The entire show will be there. It's just going to be broken out, going to be much, much easier to consume, much more consumable, much more digestible. And I think overall, guys, much more enjoyable for each and every single one of you. And again, you guys will see what I'm talking about as we go. I can show you better than I can tell you. Now, I spoke on that TDC guest lineup really, really quickly, guys. I want to update you all. I'm very excited. This is how we will operate on the Daily Crow with our daily guests on the show. On Mondays, we'll have Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. Tuesdays now, we'll have J.C. Sherbert of Inside the Gamecocks of the Big Spur. So J.C. moves from Thursdays to Tuesdays. On Wednesday, we'll have my good friend J.D. Piquel of On3 Sports. Really excited about this one, guys. He's a friend of the show. Of course, he's been on the show before, and he is going to provide immense value in the college football space and with our college football content. Really excited to have JD Piquel join us weekly. That will slide Mark Ryan of the Fan Upstate on Thursdays. And then on Fridays, beginning on June the 2nd, he can't do it for a couple of weeks because he's getting married actually this weekend, and then his honeymoon all of next week. But our good friend Jake Crane will close out the week in style each and every single week. He will join us on Fridays beginning June the 2nd. So, guys, we are making moves, right? You might think to yourself, okay, we're getting towards the end of baseball season, getting in the summer. He's going to slow down. He's going to sit back, put it on cruise control. No, we are hitting the freaking gas pedal, right? Because guess what? Football season just around the corner. Our 100 days until kickoff countdown just around the corner. And, guys, the content never stops bleeding out of the eyeballs. Really, really excited for these changes, for these updates, the expansion and the evolution of the content, and really, really excited to get rolling and rock with this, guys. I know it's going to be huge for TSUS, for TDC, and everything in between. Guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the meat of this show. We're talking South Carolina dropping 2 of 3 over the weekend, falling to the Arkansas Razorbacks, the third-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks at Baum-Walker Stadium in Fayetteville, losing game 1 on Friday night by a final score of 4-1, winning on Saturday 3-1, before losing in the rubber match 5-1. And, guys, I did what I shouldn't have done after the series concluded, which it's just bad habit at this point. I went and checked social media to gauge the temperature of the fan base. and how people were feeling and just sort of give a check-in. And folks, you would think this ball club, who is overall, I think, 37-14, I think it is, something like that. I think 37-14 is the overall record. You would think this ball club is 14-37. Now, listen to me. I know I sound like a broken record, and you all know, I don't think I have to sell you on this. I'm not the garnet glasses guy. I'm not sunshine and rainbows. I am far from a sunshine pumper. I don't know that there's many out there that would label me as such. But what you will not find, if you're coming to this show, you're on YouTube, or you're listening on Monday morning, what you will not find from yours truly is panic. Am I frustrated? Hell yes, because losing is not fun. But I think here's what you have to do when you look at this Arkansas weekend. First things first, guys, pitching dominated the weekend, right? South Carolina only able to score 5 runs all weekend. Arkansas only scores, 10 runs themselves. Okay, so pitching dominated on both sides. There was not even a home run hit between these two ball clubs until the Sunday game. And we're talking about a South Carolina team that averages over 2 home runs per game and an Arkansas team that almost averages 2 home runs per game. So 2 of the most prolific offenses in college baseball, 2 of the best at hitting the long ball and with their power numbers, if you will, right? So a hard-fought series all weekend long. And when I look at this series for what it is, and you'll understand where I'm coming from in just a second, when I look at this series, just these 3 games, what I see is this: 2 of the best teams in college baseball going head-to-head, a hard-fought series, and it really reminded you, right? We saw these 2 teams face off in the Super Regionals, right? Back in, 2018, I believe, Mark Kingston's first year, and that was a classic. It felt a lot like that. Just a great series between 2 great teams. There is no shame in losing 2 of 3 to the Arkansas Razorbacks at Baum-Walker Stadium. Guys, I picked it number 1, and number 2, we talked about just how good the Hawgs were at their home field. Had lost one singular SEC game at the friendly confines all year. There was a reason why it's one of the best environments and one of the toughest places to play in college baseball. So if I would have told you before the season, right, this is the point I'm getting to. If I would have told you before the season, hey, South Carolina is going to lose 2 of 3 to the 3rd-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks. And the Gamecocks, by the way, are ranked 6th in the country at this point, but they're going to lose 2 of 3. Here are going to be the scores. Here's how it played out. You probably would have told me, that's frustrating, because we hate to lose, but I can understand it. Arkansas is a really good team. It's not going to throw your season awry. It's not going to throw you off the tracks. We will be fine because obviously we're playing pretty good baseball to go toe-to-toe with a team like that at their place. Here's the problem. Then you bring in more context to the situation. And unfortunately, the way that you played the 2 weekends prior, getting swept by Kentucky, which is really the one that stings for me, getting swept by Kentucky and losing 2 of 3 at Auburn. Guys, dare I say it, put unfair pressure on this weekend. You should have never been in a position where you felt like we have to take 2 of 3 against Arkansas. We have to go into Baum-Walker Stadium and take that series. This series, in my opinion, was always viewed as it's a nice to have, but it's not one you're expecting to have. Again, guys, I picked 2 of 3 on the Arkansas side for a reason. The goal was this: just don't get swept on the road against the top 5 team in all of college baseball. Just do not get swept. But the problem is losing the previous 2 SEC series, losing the midweek to North Florida, and people they're unraveling at the seams. They're boiling over. The tensions are boiling over. Here's what I also think has happened this season. Because as you can tell, right, I don't have to spoil it for you. And I'm not sunshine pumping. I think I'm just keeping a level head. Because when South Carolina was killing everybody, sweep Florida, dominate LSU in game 1. That was a lot of fun, guys. The way South Carolina started was a lot of fun. But anybody who's watched baseball, been in baseball, been around baseball, I knew the Gamecocks weren't going to live at that high the entire year. I mean, you had people talking about, we're going to win 22 SEC games, 23. We may never lose again. That was an absurd reaction. On the flip side, I mean, I talked about it all week leading in this series. The opposite of that reaction, this team's never going to win again. They don't deserve to host. We should just end the season now. Let's just throw in the towel. You'd think Carolina is 14-37. They're not. They're not. Is it frustrating what is happening right now? Absolutely, it's frustrating. But guys, believe it or not, I come out of this weekend more encouraged. The problem was this. Against Kentucky and Auburn, those are two teams that, while they're very good ball clubs, watching it, you did not feel like South Carolina was playing up to the standard. That was the thing I think that was most bothersome. On the bump especially. Just not living up to the standard. Guys, South Carolina played good baseball this weekend. I mean, they didn't swing it very well. Don't get me wrong, but, and I hate to be this guy because I've been this guy a lot, but when it comes to Arkansas, and you're facing a guy like they threw Hunter Holland on Sunday, and he throws a CG with 10 Ks, I mean, you got to kind of tip your cap. You got to tip your cap. I think the big thing this lineup can learn from this weekend is this. When you have an opportunity early in game, you have to take advantage. Because when you get in the postseason and you're facing these elite arms, and guys, most of the guys that are starting in the postseason, the reason those teams made the postseason is because they have elite arms. So you got to get them early. And the Yardcocks had chances early in both games 1 and game 3, could not do it, right? The game 3, I mean, I think the first and third situation, nobody out, where Braylon Wimmer hits the little nubber pop-up, followed up by Talmadge Lecroy, bad luck, line drive right back at Holland. He throws a third base double play, and that was kind of all she wrote, right? I feel like that killed you offensively. Another thing killing the Yardcocks offensively right now, we're going to spend more time talking about this week. You know what's missing right now? And I know he's a freshman, but Ethan Petrie's slump is killing this lineup. I mean, you guys might recall early in the season, it felt like this dude on a nightly basis was getting that momentum-changing type of knock, that game-changing type of home run. It's just not happening right now. He's in a slump, the first slump of his career. And I think he'll get it fixed, but I'm sure that coaching staff will be hard at work this week, because the things that I saw that were more bothersome, the body language, getting visibly frustrated. Listen, we know you're frustrated. I know you're frustrated. You can't show that on the field. You can't show that to the opposition. He's an 18-year-old kid. That's something he will fix, he will correct, he will learn from. But that's obviously affecting the lineup. When you're 3 hole hitters in the type of slump this kid's in, it's just tough. It makes it tough. I mean, there were moments all weekend, man. I think, again, maybe it's recency bias because the game just happened a couple of hours ago. But game 3, what are there, 2 men on? Ethan Petrie's up. I was thinking to myself, I was like, and it was 1-0 South Carolina in this moment. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know, earlier in the season, this is the moment where Petrie hits a 3-run homer. This is that moment. And that moment is not happening right now. It's just not happening. Now, I don't blame Ethan Petrie. To expect Ethan Petrie to have played at that level that he was swinging the bat at, to expect that all year, I mean, guys, come on. It's just really not realistic, to be honest with you. It's not realistic. But you just simply put, offensively, did not do enough. Taking advantage of these big arms early in game. It's something you have to do. Again, you had your opportunities on Friday and Sunday, and you were not able to cash in. And once you let these premier arms get into a rhythm and get into a groove, you got to get them early, right? We hear the old expression, the old cliche, and the reason it's a cliche is because it's true. If you're going to get him, you got to get him early. How many guys do you hear that about? If you're going to get him, you got to get him early. That's because once they get in the groove, it's going to be real tough to knock them off it. It's going to be really tough to knock them out. And so I look across the board this weekend. Starting pitching, elite. Starting pitching was fantastic. Eli Jones, what he did in that game one spot. I mean, guys, whether Will Sanders is hurt, he's not hurt, does it even really matter at this point? Eli Jones, in my opinion, he's earned the start game one against Tennessee later this week. He's earned that start. No question about it. Jack Mahoney, what he did, we'll get into more in just a second, but phenomenal, fantastic, heroic type of effort. And I thought Matthew Becker was much, much better, obviously, than we saw over the past couple of weeks. And I thought he was solid, guys, by all accounts. I mean, allowing 5 runs on a Sunday, you'll take that. I mean, I'll take that every time. 5 runs in a game 3, you just got to be able to swing the bat and help your team out offensively. But again, what you don't bank on is a guy, Hunter Holland, who had combined for 7 2/3, I think it was, 7 2/3 innings pitched the last 2 starts for him this season against Texas A&M, and I forget who the other was. But what you didn't expect from that guy is for him to go 9 complete innings, go a complete game, allow just 1 earned run, and retire, what was it, at one point 19 in a row. South Carolina went to the 9th inning. They did not have a hit since the 3rd inning. That's how good Holland was. The same way that Jack Mahoney was special on Saturday night, unfortunately, Hunter Holland was even that much better in his start for the Hawgs on Sunday. But so I looked, though, across the board, these box scores. You know what else stands out to me? South Carolina made 1 error all weekend in 27 innings of baseball. 1. They pitched well, and they played great defense. Guys, you have that combination. I think the hitting will be there. I think this week at home is going to show everybody the hitting is still there. I think this team will swing it much better at Founders Park, and it's why hosting in the postseason is so important. And I feel crazy almost because I'm normally like I don't know, people label me at least as like, I'm like the fire the coach this or change that. And trust me, if things continue to trend downward and we get in the postseason, get knocked out in the regionals, guys, I will be there. I will be there. You need not worry about that. But at this point right now, believe it or not, I come out of this weekend encouraged. I actually come out of this weekend feeling like, okay, we're starting to play better baseball. Game 3 did not go our way. That would have been a great game to win. That was my thought process coming in. This would be a great game to have. We'd all love to have it. Odds of realistically winning it at Baum-Walker, going to be tough to beat Arkansas. It's going to take a damn near perfect effort. And unfortunately, Hunter Holland showed up and he shoved. But losing 2 of 3 to Arkansas, if you just put it in a bubble, right? If you look at it through a tunnel, if you will, losing 2 of 3 to the 3rd-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks at Baum-Walker Stadium, guys, that does not make South Carolina a bad team. It just doesn't. Now, when you bring in more context and you talk about what trend you're on right now and what's happening, I understand. I get it. I get being frustrated. But what I'm not doing is throwing in the towel. I'm just not doing it, guys. And maybe I'll look like a fool. I know, as I mentioned last week, it's not the popular thing to be where I'm at right now, which is I'm kind of sitting back in the middle and just sort of, let's just see how it plays out. Let's just see. I'm not ready to pronounce them dead quite yet. I know that's not the popular thing because what people love to do on social media, slap dicks, I might add, they love to overreact one way or the other. They love to live or die with every result. And in baseball, the season's just too long. The season's too long. How many times, let me ask you this, on a side note, how many times last year do you think Ole Miss fans pronounced their team dead? How many times? I mean, it had to be on an every week basis. And I know that's not a great example because what they did is a one-off and it never happens, but like, the point still stands. Guys, South Carolina is going to be hosting a regional, barring a just complete collapse in this final week. And I'm not trying to spoil any of my predictions this week, but I really do genuinely feel like this team's going to play much better baseball this week at home. I think coming back at home, guys, there's a reason why it's so valuable to play on the home field. I know you didn't look good your last midweek at home against North Florida, but midweeks don't make any sense a lot of the time. Guess who else lost to North Florida, guys? The Florida Gators, who are now leading the SEC. Like, shit happens in the midweek. You've had 2 straight road weekends in conference at Kentucky and at Arkansas. I think coming home to the friendly confines, and we shall see, I think it's going to help this team a lot. And I think people are going to see, damn, that's why it's so important to host a regional. That's why it's so important to be at Founders Park, because this team loves to swing it there. They love to play there, and they're much better. Again, when I look at this weekend, there were things that were lacking all on the offensive side. I thought it was great to see Braylon Wimmer get back in the lineup, right? He's a welcome addition. Already a couple of knocks on the weekend, couple of RBI. That's a huge, huge return of what he did. Obviously, just being in the DH spot. Talmadge LeCroy being back in the field. I mean, it is a huge boost to this team. Cole Messina back behind the dish. Thought he was fantastic defensively. You even got some production out of the bottom of your lineup, right? And Evan Stone and Will Tippett hit a bomb. My God. Will Tippett went yard. So there were a lot of positives. Again, you played great defense. You pitched really well. You know, I know James Hicks was a little bit shaky. Cade Austin a little bit shaky. But, I mean, you look at those numbers, you'll take it every single weekend giving up, 10 runs over the course of a weekend. Got to swing it better, no doubt. But, I mean, again, we're talking about the Arkansas pitching staff. So maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm a lunatic. Maybe I've taken something, done something where now I'm sunshine pumper C Philly over here. Or maybe I'm just not ready to throw in the towel on a ball club that I still believe. Maybe they're not as good as they were at the start of the year. And I think something else, and I don't know why Gamecock fans operate this way. I really don't. And maybe it's all fan bases. I think it probably is. Let me not single out the Garnet and Black. I think it's all fan bases. When your team is doing poorly, it sucks. When your team is doing poorly and your rival is winning, well, that's when shit really hits the fan for people. And that's exactly what's happening right now. That's exactly what's happening right now. And I think people also love to hit the panic button. They love to be doom and gloom. I mean, guys, it's proven. It's true. I see it in content all the time. Post-game video where I'm talking about a victory, it gets 1,000 views. Post-game video where I'm talking about an agonizing defeat, it gets 5,000 views. Why is that? Why is that? Because people are gluttons for punishment. I understand. But all I'll say is this. This ball club can still accomplish great things. I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I really do believe that. Especially if you can bottle up that pitching and that defense you just had in Fayetteville, I think the hitting will come back. I think the hitting will be there. You got to believe and hope that Ethan Petrie is going to get it going once again. Cole Messina is going to be there. Braylon Wimmer is going to be there. Talmadge LeCroy is going to be there. I thought Gavin Costas looked pretty good this weekend. There's some other guys that need to get going, but I think the pieces are still in place. I really do. And I think returning home, I think you'll see this lineup be much, much more productive. Now, they got to go out in the field and do it. The pressure is on. You've put yourself, you kind of backed yourself in a corner a little bit, and we'll talk a lot more later this week about that series. But losing 2 of 3, just in a vacuum, that's the word I'm looking for. That's an interesting expression. But in a vacuum, just losing 2 of 3 to Arkansas, it doesn't end your season. It's not a series you expected to win in the preseason. Unfortunately, because of losing 2 of 3 to Auburn, who might be the hottest team, one of the hottest in college baseball, and getting swept by Kentucky, who I know they lost 2 or 3 to Tennessee, but guys, they're being projected as a top 8 national seed. I think some people just got out a little ahead of their skis earlier in the year, thinking we're going to win 21, 22, 23 SEC games. That was never the reality. Same thing as after last week, and I told people, this team's not going to lose out. Like, it's somewhere in the middle. Baseball's a numbers game, and the numbers always seem to find a way to even themselves out. So I actually believe, guys, I know people maybe don't want to hear it right now. I think there's things you look at over the weekend that I'm encouraged by. Like, I'm more encouraged now, sitting here now, than I was going into the weekend. Flat out. And is exactly what I said I thought would happen. I thought this team would bounce back, play much better baseball. I think they did all 3 days. Unfortunately, hey, tough Arkansas team. They are one of the best home field teams in college baseball. And you saw that over the weekend, and you hope and pray you don't have to go back to Baum-Walker at any point this season. God bless the team that has to play there in a super regional. God bless the teams that have to go there for a regional. And hopefully we don't have to go back. So, in my opinion, the sky is not falling. The sky is not falling, but a pivotal final week of the regular season upcoming. Guys, let's move into our Oot Oot Series MVP award. And this one is very easy, very simple. It goes to Jack Mahoney. 7 innings pitched in game 2, 5 hits, no runs, no earned, 6 strikeouts. And that start, guys, and you watch the game, the way he fielded his position. I mean, the best, I don't remember the last time, we've seen a pitcher at South Carolina field his position that well. The plays he made him, and the dude was getting the ball hit back at him all night, just making plays left and right. The defense all around that night was fantastic. But Jack Mahoney, what he was doing, contributing in that fashion, the big pitches he made, the emotion he pitched with, it was the return of dominant Jack Mahoney. And if you're getting that type of performance from your game 2 guy, getting that type of performance from him, going to be huge for South Carolina moving forward. So again, the winner of our Oot Oot Series MVP award, it goes to Jack Mahoney. Let's move into Slap Dick of the Weekend. And this one's also very easy. Ironically enough, the Saturday night home plate umpire, that one specifically, I could just say the home plate umpire all weekend long, but it's a different guy, I think, every game. That home plate umpire on Saturday night, my God. I mean, some of the calls all weekend. And SEC umpires, the bar is in hell for me in regards to expectations and what I think they'll do and not do, what have you. That was absurd, some of those calls. And we've all seen the screenshots, different calls here and there. Cole Messina got upset over a call for good reason. I mean, I don't know what it was, but terrible. Just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Anyways, let's get into who's hot, who's not, who's hot. I'm going to give it to Eli Jones, guys. Dude's had 2 SEC starts. He's been phenomenal in both of them, in my opinion. Friday night, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 2 walks, but he had 10 strikeouts. And, I mean, you think about what he's being asked to do. The week of, right, Will Sanders, whatever. He gets hurt. They want to make a change. Eli Jones has just been casually coming out of the bullpen like, hey, we want you to start game 1 at Baum-Walker Stadium against one of the best teams in college baseball. And he just shoves the way he did. Gave South Carolina a great chance to win. Eli Jones in 2 SEC starts has been fantastic. In 2 hostile venues, by the way, I think it's a no-brainer. He should get the ball on Thursday night against Tennessee. Who's not going to give it to Dylan Brewer? Another rough weekend for Brewer, 1 for 11 with 4 strikeouts on the weekend. He's seen better days for sure, better weekends, if you will. What's next for Mark Kingston's club? The Gamecocks have a midweek game against the Charlotte 49ers as they'll look for revenge against Charlotte, right? South Carolina's only lost 2 midweek games all season. One of them was to Charlotte at Truist Field. It feels like forever ago, but that game at Founders Park on Tuesday night. And then, of course, guys, the final weekend of the regular season as South Carolina closes out against the Tennessee Volunteers Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And, of course, guys, we'll talk much, much more about that series and everything else, break it all down, give our full preview predictions, etc. later this week. But a huge series against the Volunteers when you just think about where Carolina is right now, 15 SEC wins. You talk about seeding. You talk about, maybe top 8 national seed potential. I know some people, that's crazy. You're crazy. Guys, if Carolina sweeps and they finish with 18 SEC wins, it's very possible. It's still very possible. So a lot on the line. Hey, there's SEC tournament seeding, which will begin next week. It's crazy. You've already reached that point. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. But again, Charlotte on Tuesday night, weekend series against the Tennessee Volunteers, who are coming off of a series win against Kentucky at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. But as we know, Tennessee, a much, much different team on the road. So Founders Park will be rocking and rolling for all 3 games of that series. Guys, that's going to do it all for the show. Hey, let's get into your listener questions now. Look like we have a lot of comments here in the comment section. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. The Rowdy Rooster Rundown, first ever edition, which as you guys can tell, it's literally just what normally the Monday morning, or the Monday, I should just say, podcast is. We've just turned it into a live show, and this will still drop, of course, guys, 5 a.m. for all of our morning commuters on Monday. So everybody who normally tunes into the podcast, do not fret. It's still going to be there, obviously, because you're hearing the sound of my voice. If you're listening to this on Monday morning. Really, really cool. All right, let's get into a couple of texts. We'll get into your questions here also in the YouTube chat. We did have a couple of texts come in. Hog fan in Charleston here. Hard-fought, clean series from two classy programs. Here's to hoping it's a matchup in Omaha in a month or so. Love that. I thought Arkansas fans were cool. Honestly, I thought Arkansas fans were cool all weekend long. They tuned in the live stream watch-alongs. I thought we had a lot of fun. By the way, thank you to all of those who tuned into the live stream watch-alongs. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Other text here says from Southern Style. Says, can't win baseball games with runners on base. At least the pitcher stepped up and gave us a chance. Yeah, again, like I said, man, I think the biggest takeaway offensively is, listen, you're not going to score. You're not going to score 10 runs per game. We talked about that early in season. And so once you start facing these elite arms, you had a couple of chances early in these ball games, games 1 and 3 specifically. You got to cash in. You just have to cash in because it's not guaranteed you're going to have that opportunity to have a big inning again because these guys are so good. And once they lock in and once they get in the groove, it's just going to be really, really, really tough to get them out of that groove. We got one question on Instagram. Jackson Ross 00 says, are we still in a position to host a regional? Yes, absolutely. The projections are going to come out this week. Now, listen, here's what's going to irk people. Here's what's going to send people for a tailspin. That team in the upstate, Clem sucks, is probably going to be a higher seed than Carolina. But, guys, here's a little tidbit for you. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. As long as Carolina is one of the top 16 seeds, doesn't matter. If Clem sucks is going to be a top 8 national seed, that's one thing. They're not. They're not going to be. They're not. They don't have the resume for it. As long as Carolina's a top 16 national seed, all that matters. But yes, South Carolina is still in position right now. I saw some, I don't know. Anyways, I just saw a lot of commentary on social media. I know the running joke is, well, Carolina's going to travel to Clemson for the regional. Guys, no, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. It's not happening. So the Gamecocks are still in great position. They need to take care of business this weekend for sure. And this week, they need to take care of business this week. But they're still in great position to host if you take care of business. You ain't got to win all 4 games. I'd say you probably got to go 3-1, but still in great position to host. I'm not even worried about that. All right, let's get into these YouTube questions here. Let's get into these YouTube questions in our chat box. Like I mentioned, guys, we're still going to take listener questions at the end of these shows, just like I did on the podcast, but a little bit different format. So I'm keeping you guys on your toes. Let's see. M. Colt back, trying to be level-headed, stay positive about the team. Got to get the bats going. Yes, we got to get the bats going, no doubt. Got to get the bats going. Blake Seaborn, I disagree with the new pitching coach. I believe we pitched very well this weekend. Blake, I did not see. Oh, okay, you're talking about Ritter's comment. No, we do not, Ritter, need a new pitching coach. We do not need a new pitching coach. Let's see. So, Marcos Quinn comments, Clem sucks is the best team in the country. Sir, if I'd have read that comment earlier, you would have been slapdick of the weekend. Let's see. Any other questions? No, Corey Bridges. I don't think Messina is done at all. Looked like when he ran off, he just had a cramp. So unless I missed something, I don't think Messina will be out for any extended period of time. Here we go. This is interesting. Corey Bridges says, mix it up and move Petrie to 5. Maybe it'll take the pressure off him. And I was wondering that, Corey, today, thinking about, I wonder at what point do they start to move Ethan Petrie in the lineup, right? Because he's been in that 3-hole spot. There's a lot of pressure there. I personally, at this point, would prefer to see, let's slide Cole Messina to the 3-hole, Petrie to the 5. I think he gets a little bit more to hit. And I think Cole Messina at this point is one of your best hitters, if not your best hitter all around. I like the move. I think you will start to see them tinker with the lineup just a little bit, just to get Ethan Petrie going. Just change something up, right? Just change something up and help him out a little bit. Billy Beck, very clean baseball all weekend. Yes, big wash. Petrie is very young, and he's a true freshman. Dakota USC, Chris, it's not Evan Stone. He's called Evan Trout Jr. now. That's been his name for a few weeks. My bad. Evan Trout Jr. then. Evan Trout Jr. Dakota USC also says, wait, this is new. Has C Philly turned to a sunshine pumper now? I'm trying to keep it level-headed because we saw it this past weekend, did we not? Lose game 1, the sky is falling. South Carolina wins game 2, and you literally go on Twitter, and people are saying, are we back? Are the Yardcocks back? We're back, man. We're back. It took 1 game. So, like, if you're out there, if I was out there every single weekend, overreacting one way or the other to whether we won the series, we lost the series, we swept, got swept, do you know how exhausting that emotional roller coaster would get? Just up and down, up and down, up and down. And it's just like, dude, just let it play out. See, football is a little bit different. When you're talking about titles and stuff, like you lose 1 game, it kind of throws your season for a loop, right? Or you lose a couple of games, and I mean, we all know the rest. Baseball is much different, man. You lose 1 game, so what? Lose 2, so what? I mean, it really just, it's a long, long year, man, and you got to let it play out. I know that's not the popular again take, but I still believe in this team and think this team will be fine. Lynn Turner says, I think the pitching was much, much better this week, and I agree with you. I agree, absolutely. All right, guys, looks like that's all the questions. Hey, thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed Rowdy Rooster Rundown, the first ever edition. Be sure to like, subscribe on YouTube, hit that bell icon so you get the notifications for when we go live and also when we drop new video content. And all my folks who are hearing me via audio version on Monday, no need to fret. You're going to continue to hear me, this rundown, this recap of what happened over the weekend. Every single Monday morning, it will drop as the podcast normally would. Guys, I'm almost removing the word in the sense of, I was going to say remove the word podcast from my vocabulary, but I really just mean in the sense of like separating the podcast from this. It's all the podcast. It's just all of our content. You guys will rock and roll with the punches as you always do, and I truly appreciate it. But again, thank you to all those who tuned into the live version of Rowdy Rooster Rundown, and of course, all those who tune in on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, what have you. Thank you all so much for the continued love and support. We had a great weekend with the live stream watch-alongs, and we got some really, really exciting things in the works. I cannot wait to share with you all. Again, guys, thank you all so much. Appreciate you all tuning in. Y'all have a great rest of your night if you're on the live show, a great rest of your Monday if you're listening to the podcast, and we will talk to you all soon. Appreciate each and every single one of you. Have a good